right, today you'll be taking the Section 2 quiz of Telltale Heart. Make sure you're reading each question carefully. Question number 1 says, think about the text, The Allegory of the Cave by Plato, to answer questions 1 through 5. Part A, what is the central idea of the allegory of the cave? A, most men live chained to the wall of a cave all of their lives, facing a blank wall and trying to guess the nature of objects reflected by a fire. B, a philosopher is like a prisoner freed from the cave that comes to understand that the shadows are not reality. Rather, he understands reality by his experience. C, men who allow their experience to be shaped by perceptions and shadows do not know a better life. D, a philosopher must return to share the news of enlightenment with others who will not necessarily accept his good news. Part B, what quotation from the text best supports the answer to Part A? A, people live under the earth in a cave-like dwelling, stretching a long way up toward the daylight is its entrance, toward which the entire cave is gathered. The people have been in this dwelling since childhood, shackled by the legs and neck. B, from the beginning, people like this have never managed, whether on their own or with the help by others, to see anything besides the shadows that are continually projected on the wall opposite them by the glow of fire. C, and having done all that, by this time he would also be able to gather the following about the sun. 1, that it is that which grants both the seasons and the years, and 3, that it is also the cause of all things that the people dwelling in the cave have before their eyes in some way or other. D, and now I responded, consider this. If this person who had gotten out of the cave were to go back down again and sit in the same place as before, would he not find in that case, coming suddenly out of the sunlight, that his eyes were filled with darkness? Question 2, why do the prisoners in the allegory of the cave, who do the prisoners in the allegory of the cave represent? A, ordinary people living in the world, not realizing that everything is an illusion. B, philosophers and those who see the world as an illusion. C, philosophers who help other seekers to understand ideas of truth, perception, and reality. D, people who want to break free to experience truth and reality but are bound by their own chains. Question 3, what statement best summarizes part 2 of the allegory of the cave by Plato? A, one prisoner is unchained and slowly pushed towards the mouth of the cave. As the prisoner is dragged from the cave, he resists leaving and staring into the light. B, prisoners are chained in the cave, shackled by their necks, unable to see anything but shadows projected on the walls of the cave. All the prisoners have ever known are the shadows in front of them and the sounds they believe the shadows make. C, one prisoner is unchained and forced to stare into the light. After his eyes adjust to the sudden glare of light, he slowly comes to realize that the shadows were not as real as he had formerly believed. D, the prisoner leaves the cave and realizes that the world is not as he has previously believed. He then comes to understand truth, perception, and reality and returns to the cave to share with others. Question 4, read the excerpt from The Allegory of the Cave by Plato, then answer the question. Socrates, now if once again, along with those who had remained shackled there, the freed person had to engage in the business of asserting and maintaining opinions about the shadows, while his eyes are still weak and before they have readjusted, an adjustment that would require quite a bit of time, would he not then be exposed to ridicule down there? What is the meaning of adjustment as it is used in the excerpt? A, shift. B, alteration. C, adaptation. Or D, change. Question 5, read the excerpt from The Allegory of the Cave by Plato, then answer the questions. Thoughts about the sun, its nature and functions. Socrates, and having done all that, by this time he would also be able to gather the following about the sun. That it is that which grants both the seasons and the years. 2, it is that which governs whatever there is in the now visible region of sunlight. And 3, that it is also the cause of all those things that the people dwelling in the cave have before their eyes in some way or another. Glaucon, it is obvious that he would get to these things, the sun and whatever stands in its light, after he had gone out beyond those previous things. the merely reflections and shadows. Thoughts about the caves. Socrates. And then what? If he again recalled his first dwelling and the knowing that passes as the norm there, and the people with whom he was once chained, don't you think he would consider himself lucky because of the transformation that had happened, and by contrast feel sorry for them? Glaucon, very much so. A. What does this excerpt reveal about Plato's attitude towards perception and reality? A. It is far better to have experienced reality and to understand the world as it is, having sharpened one's own perceptions to develop truth. B. It is sometimes worth the struggle to understand a true perception and reality, but other times one might gain no advantage from understanding the world as it is. C. It causes guilt and pity for those who were left behind, so it is better to be ignorant of the outside world. D. It is neither better nor worse to experience reality, but to truly understand the truth and perception, one should just accept what is presented as reality. Part B, what line from the excerpt best supports the answer to part A? A, 1, that it is that which grants both the seasons and the years. B, it is obvious that he would get to these things, the sun and whatever stands in its light, after he had gone out beyond those previous things, the merely reflections and shadows. C, if he again recalled his first dwelling and the knowing that passes as the norm there, and the people with whom he was once chained, don't you think he would consider himself lucky? D, and by contrast, feel sorry for them.